Today I've got a special IR loader for you, and normally that may not sound too exciting. There's a lot of IR loaders out there. There are many good ones that are free. There's plenty of paid options. This is a paid option. The normal asking price is $60. That is a lot for an IR loader, but I think it's worth it. And today I'm going to tell you why. This is Cabinetron, the world's first good IR loader. Okay, maybe not, but it's got some features that I think you'll really like. I really like. I got this plugin for free. I asked for it. I wanted to check it out, so I emailed them. They were nice enough to give me a copy to show you and for me to test out. So there's a couple features here that I think make it really unique and that made me interested in it. The auto phase feature and this mixer. So we're going to check this out in the context of a song, and I'm going to make a blend that will end up being the guitar tone for this song. So what I have first is the Crown from Audio Assault, and this is a great amp. It hasn't been ported yet to their new amp locker. You should check that out if you haven't, but it's still a cool amp, and that's what I was using with this. It's got 3D cabs, and the cabs are good. The IRs are good. No complaint. It's not a bad tone, but we're going to make something different and hopefully something even better. So let's listen to the guitar tone we have with just this plugin first. So let's go ahead and make a blend with this. You can see we've got 8 IR slots in the main list window. So I'm going to show you the auto phase, and this is a big deal to me. It's a simple thing, but it makes a big difference in your tone, and I think it's done really well in this plugin. In order to demonstrate the effectiveness, I've gone ahead and copied this setup over to my B channel. You can see I've got an A-B toggle, and if you hit copy, you can copy from one to the other automatically. For my A, I'm going to do the phase align, and I'm just going to right click any of these and go to auto phase align. And you can see it automatically phase aligns all of these. That's a cool little algorithm, and let's listen to what kind of a difference the phase alignment makes in the IR. So I think that makes quite a big difference. Now, you can certainly hear it when it's soloed, and I think the phase-aligned version definitely sounds better. There are different ways when you are making IRs of doing phase alignment. I always cut my files to the start of the IR, so I'm not trimming any information off, but the result of that is that when you blend them, they're not necessarily going to be in perfect phase. They're going to be in natural phase. That's how I prefer to do it, at least, because it keeps the IR natural. But auto phase ensures that no matter what, or if you're blending IRs from different IR makers, you're going to get good results across the board. And I notice especially the top end clarity when I hear it in the mix there. The mid-range doesn't stand out as much, but the top end definitely sounds clear, and it definitely sounds like it cuts through the mix better without doing any tweaks to EQ or anything. So we're starting out with a good foundation. Everything's in phase. We're not getting any weird hollow spots in our guitar tone. So the next cool thing to look at is, of course, this mixer. And if you've seen Libra from STL, this is somewhat familiar. Typically, most IR loaders are just 2, and then You can blend between the two, and that's fine for a lot of cases, and it's fine if you already have an established blend. But where something like this comes in handy is for someone like me who's making my own IRs and making my own blends. This really gives me a lot of tools to work with for coming up with custom blends that are really cool and unique, and doing that easily and efficiently. And of course, I can export everything quite easily from this as well. So let's solo up the guitars again and just listen to each of these IRs and show you how this mixer works. Of course, you can also go in and mute any of these IRs, and we'll just remove them from the processing. And if I also go back here and delete some of these, we can see on the mixer, now we have a square. Not that the shape exactly matters, but it is cool. We start out with a single dot, and then we get a regular line, like we see on many other IR loaders, and then a triangle. And if you can guess this, all right, it keeps going. Square, all right, what shape has 5 points? That's right, a pentagon. Not a pentagram, sexagram. That's a septagram. No, that's 7. A hexagon. That's the word I'm looking for. A hexagon, and that's a septagon. Is that correct? Okay, now that we've had our shapes lesson for today, we're going to look at some other features. Each one of these has a kind of channel strip, and I'm going to turn off all the other IRs for now. We've got this mutation, which is another cool feature that I don't think I've seen anywhere else before. If you have an IR you like, but you want to just tweak it a little bit, this can be a way to do that. So let's turn off this mutation, and then we have some other things here. In this miking, we have smooth, which will literally smooth out the EQ of your speaker, which if you want to go for that like old Line 6 pod sound, want to do something vintage with it, you want some low resolution approximation of a speaker curve, you can do that. It basically smooths out the EQ, so it's almost like lowering the resolution of the IR more than taming the top end or anything. It does in effect smooth out the top end, but you can see how it's doing it by actually kind of reducing the complexity of the speaker curve. We also have this Fred knob, which, as you might guess, is an approximation of the Fredman technique, where you have a 57 directly on the cap and then another one at a 60-degree angle or something, exactly off axis. They're pointing at the same place, and it gets this kind of phasey, cool sound that was made famous on Clayman by In Flames. Well, this emulates that. How close of a job does it do? I don't know. But how does it sound? Let's see. this is probably unnecessary, but here's a comparison between a sort of real Fredman technique, or rather me approximating what they're doing with the Fredman technique here, which in this case is introducing a sort of hollowness, which I think is a phase thing. So I've actually flipped the phase on one of these, and that is the closest I can get to what this Fredman simulation is doing. And they sound, within the same ballpark. That's an aside, but either way, it sounds pretty cool and it works pretty well. So if you like that Fredman thing, maybe that's something to try. Though there's also other ways you can get a similar or better sound. So another way we can manipulate these IRs is the position and distance on this XY. This is going to simulate moving the mic. Now, I'm usually not a fan of this kind of stuff just because usually we already have enough IRs of enough different positions and hopefully the best ones, and then faking it with like EQ tricks. But whatever, let's check out how it sounds. Maybe I'll change my mind. Probably not. Let's do another little comparison, see how close this comes to reality. So I've got my cap edge position, which is the edge of the dust cap, and then I've got a real IR I did of the cone of the speaker. And so we're going to take that cap edge and see if we can move it over to the cone position virtually. While it doesn't sound bad on its own, it doesn't really sound the same as it really would if you were to actually have that IR. So maybe in a pinch you could use that, or maybe you like the sound of it, and that's cool. It's a creative tool, but is it realistic? Maybe not. Then we have a 3-band EQ, and this is supposed to work like the EQ on your guitar amp. That's the idea. So let's check that out. That's a cool feature. It sounds pretty good. It's not super extreme. The lows are not terribly obvious. The mids, I can definitely hear a pretty big difference, but it doesn't sound unnatural, and it seems to work well. Then we also have a high-pass, low-pass filter. That's useful, though, unless you're doing just one IR, I would want to do that on everything. And for that, we have this master EQ. So you can right-click them to create any number of bands here. Here we have both a tilt shelf and a flat tilt EQ. Those can be useful if you just want to overall brighten or darken something without changing the tone too much on its own. We've got very steep notches. We've got our regular bells. We've got our high pass. We've got our low pass. So I don't like to take off too much if I'm making a blend, just because, again, I like to leave that little wiggle room for you, for me, down the road. But it's pretty typical for a guitar to be low passed at, say, 10K. So I usually leave it up maybe around 15 or so. I'm just taking a little bit off the top, but not so much that you're losing a lot of that if you want to change it later. And then same with the lows, around 100, 80 to 100 in there. If you want to go a little milder, 80 is pretty good, or even 70. But you do want to take some of that off. In a mix, I'm usually more aggressive, and I'll put it up to 100 or so typically. So it all depends. Let's set this to 100. Let's set this down to 12, and we'll turn the EQ on and off. That's just doing some mild cleanup and cutting the edges off so that it fits in the mix a little better. There's also the tone matching feature. So I've just captured the sound of the original IRs on the crown. I don't know if this is going to work perfectly, but here we have just a full guitar signal chain, and that's our reference that we captured. For the input, I'm going to have the IRs off and then just record that. That actually seems to do a pretty darn good job. Don't know how often I would use that, but hey, that's a handy feature, especially if you're doing covers or you just love the particular guitar tone on an album. We've got controls here over the depth, the range, and the smoothing, so we can change up how much it's blending in all those things. Let's also test out the doubler here. So it comes with a built-in doubler, which is handy if you only want to track one guitar, but you want to have a double tracked sound. I mean, it works. I don't think I would use that. It doesn't sound very good to me. Let's compare that to the double track simulation that Audio Assault has built in. I mean, they both have artifacts, and neither one would be good enough to really put on album, but I do think the Audio Assault doubler is a little better. Nonetheless, it's a handy feature to have. If you don't need to use it, don't, because, it doesn't sound perfect, but for a demo, might be good enough. The last few features here, of course, we do have stereo processing. We also have a room if you want to simulate a little bit of room tone, room reverb. And then there's this non-linearity thing, which is pretty mild, and I don't hear a big difference with it on or off. I'm going to assume that there's something going on there, but it's pretty mild. So on or off, it doesn't make a huge difference. Though if you're using Cabinetron, you might as well have it on. I guess if it adds some realism, then why not? But it's pretty subtle. So now I've got everything set up. Let's just use the mixer and blend this, and I'll create an IR blend for this song in real time with you right here, and that'll wrap this one up. So there you have it. Of course, this also comes with a whole library of their own IRs, which I've checked out a little bit. They're pretty good. My main interest, as you can see, is creating my own blends with my own IRs, but it does come with a whole bunch of IRs, I think 400 or something. We've got a Mars cab. We've got a Mesa oversize. Looks like a Diesel, Soldano, Zilla. You know, all the great cabs, jazz chorus, matchless. You know, so you've got a good variety for your dad blues as well as your brutal gent kid deathcore. So we really covered all the bases. Yeah, check out Cabinetron. I genuinely think this is a really good IR loader and a worthy plugin. The price may seem high, but consider that you do get a whole high quality library of IRs built in, as well as all the features of this. And then you can export everything, make your own custom blends. If you really want to get nerdy, you can figure out how to make your own IRs with my helpful videos. And then you can make your own blends. I have some videos on that too. I've previously used the Audio Assault Air Impulse Rack, which I do think is a great plugin for what it does, though with the auto phase feature especially, and this new mixer, plus the built-in easy to use parametric EQ. This is going to be my new go-to for creating blends going forward. So the Air Impulse Rack was a great plugin, still is, but this is going to replace it for me. So as far as whether or not it gets my seal of approval, absolutely it does, because I'm already using it and using it, remixing a whole bunch of songs for this album release, and quite enjoying it. It's fast to use and it's got a lot of flexibility. So no complaints there. I'm happy with it. Anyways, thanks for watching. And as always, smash like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.